So the next step in the commit stage is the build step. And this build step is called commit in this particular job. So I'm going to click on commit. And what's going to be occurring in this build step, it's going to be compiling source code. In the case of Ruby on Rails, it's not a compiled language, so it's going to be packaging up the source code and making a distribution. It's also going to run some fast running unit tests. These tests don't require access to heavyweight resources like file systems and databases. And then lastly, it's going to be running coding standards and coverage and security, looking for things like duplication, cyclomatic complexity. In this particular reference implementation, it's going to be running Brakeman, that's a part of Rails, in order to run static analysis. So we're going to go to the job, the commit job. We're going to go back to the project, and then we're going to look at the configuration and then follow through the steps that are occurring here. So it's going to be pulling the various repositories, and then it's going to run this commit.sh file. So let's look at that. This is the commit.sh file. So first thing it does is it starts to log some information, and then it runs a bundle install, so you can kind of think of this as a compilation of sorts. It does a checkout based on that particular SHA that we had tracked in the trigger job in the previous step. And then it's going to run a bundle execution using Rake. Rake is a build tool, and it's going to drop the database. It's going to create or set up the database, and then it's going to run some very fast running unit tests against that database. And then finally here, it's going to run some static analysis. It's going to look for some common errors that might occur in the code, so it's going to analyze the code and then report back. And if anything fails, then it's going to notify the user. And then finally, as a part of any of these shell scripts, it's going to log all this activity. And so it's going to use, again, the open delivery Ruby gem in order to log this activity as a part of the overall deployment pipeline. So just like in the other steps and the other shell scripts, it logs this activity using open delivery. And so you can use this to log any pipeline-related activity. And this is the last step in the commit stage, and it's the last job in that commit stage. And if it's successful, it automatically goes on to the acceptance stage and starts running the steps and the jobs that are associated with that acceptance stage. The commit stage needs to be very fast running. It needs to be around the time it takes to have a cup of coffee, so less than 10 minutes or so, and give that immediate feedback to the developer so they can move on to the next activity.